We're asked here to solve for the given variables, and you'll notice that there are two unknowns, two variables in each equation. We've got a pair of simultaneous equations here, and we have to find out the value of the x and the y. And the important point to notice is that the value of this x is exactly the same as the value of that x. The value of this y is exactly the same value as that y. So one of the things that you need to be able to do is identify nice and quickly, you know, what kind of a problem is this? How difficult is it? Is it a simple one? Is it an easy one? Because that will save you a bit of time. If I look, one of the things that's useful to look at is the coefficient that's in front of each of the variables. So here we have 3x, and this is 2y, 5y. Now you'll notice that the 3 is the same in front of the x on both equations, but you'll also notice that the 2 and the 5 are not the same. And more than that, the 3s, they are both positive 3s. So immediately I can see that this is quite an easy problem to solve. So we're going to solve these problems, and we're going to figure out the value of x and the value of y, and it will be relatively simple. So let's have a look. Next thing to do once we figure out, look, tricky problem, not a tricky problem. I've already said that's quite a basic problem. Let's label each of these equations. So the top one I'll call equation 1, bottom one I'll call equation 2. And essentially what we do here is we take the second equation away from the first. So it's equation 1 minus equation 2. So let's do that. So it's 3x minus 3x. Well, that's no x's. I have 3 x's, I minus 3 x's, there's no more x's. They cancel out. Then I have here 2 minus 5. So I've got 2y minus 5y. So that leaves us with minus 3y. So it's going to be a little bit tricky. So minus 3y. And on this side, we have 6 minus 24. So 6 minus 24, that's going to leave us at negative 18. Okay, so now we have a problem we can solve. It's a relatively straightforward linear equation, not too difficult. We have here minus 3y, and on the other side, on the right-hand side, it equals minus 18. Now, you need to understand that minus 3y really means minus 3 times y. So in algebra, we tend to not write the multiplication symbol, but it's right there. It's invisible. It's hidden. So how do I cancel this minus 3y part? Because I need the y by itself. Positive y has to equal a value. So what is the opposite? What is the opposite of multiplying? Well, that's dividing, right? And the opposite of multiplying by minus 3 is to divide by minus 3. So in algebra, we tend not to use the division sign here. We use the fraction bar because that also means divided by. So minus 3y divided by minus 3. Now in algebra, and when we're solving linear equations, we've got to do the same to both sides to keep the whole equation balanced. So if we divide by minus 3 on the left, we've got to divide by minus 3 on the right. Multiplied by minus 3, divided by minus 3, that cancels out. That's gone. That leaves the y. Y is all by itself. That's what we want. Negative 18 divided by negative 3. So that gives us 6. Okay, so we now think that y equals 6. I should be able to use that now and substitute in to another equation and figure out and solve for x. So I'm just going to choose one of the equations at the top. I'll take the first one, so let's use that here. So 3x, I'm going to do every single step so it's clear, equals 6. Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite the second line of working and substitute the value of x. So 3x plus, not 2 times y, 2 times 6, because I know what y is, equals 6. I'm going to simplify now. So I still haven't touched this term here, so it's 3x, hasn't changed, plus 2 times 6, so it's plus 12. And that equals 6. Now I have a linear equation I can solve. Pretty simple. I want to end, guys, remember, with x equals a value. So let's cancel out plus 12 on the left-hand side. So I do the opposite, minus 12, do the same to both sides. That cancels out. I'm left with 3x, so this can come right down here, just to keep it nice and tidy. 6 minus 12 is minus 6. I've got 3 times x, right? 3x is 3 times x, so to cancel multiplying by 3, I do the inverse, or the opposite, which is divide by 3, do the same to both sides. Multiply by 3, divide by 3, that cancels out. What am I left with? X, and that's what I want. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. So those are the two values as far as we know. Stay in the habit of checking, so let's substitute our answers. Okay, so x is minus 2, right? So let's substitute in. So it's going to be minus 2, so that's gone, right? And y, that was a 6. Okay, so 3 times minus 2, that's minus 6. 2 times 6 is 12, and that's positive 12, so plus 12. Minus 6 plus 12 is 6, so that works. Let's try this one. So not 3x, it'll be 3 times negative 2. And 5 times 6. Okay, what's the value of those? So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So positive 5 times positive 6 is positive 30. So minus 6 plus 30 is 24. Yep, so that means that x equals negative 2 and y equals 6 is correct.